Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy New Year. Steve here. Welcome. I hope a few of you are going to be joining me this afternoon for a little session, kind of impromptu. December was a pretty quiet month for me with the podcast as well as the YouTube channel. And, not surprisingly, it's the holidays after all for most of us. But it's also a time of year where I do a lot of introspection, personal reflection, like many of us do right at that time of year. So, and, as a self-appointed volunteer, unrequested YouTube content creator, podcaster, whatever I want to call myself from moment to moment, the imposter syndrome is real, you guys. We all have our reasons for beginning our channels and for creating content as we do. And I try to remember those reasons and keep them close to my mind and close to my heart, as I go through this adventure and this journey, as we go through it together. Those reasons, to recap, are that I've been, kind of like this, kind of want to be woke-ish for a long time now. Maybe 9/11, maybe earlier in my life. I want to say it started in the early 90s, to be honest. So late 80s, early 90s, really started feeling differently about the world I was living in and what was going on around me. In addition to that, in recent years, as so many of us have discovered and found ourselves viscerally responding to in different ways, I feel like our media, our multifaceted, powerful, dynamic, modern media has become something of like a unwieldy monster. Something that's sort of controlling us more than we're controlling it. Something that sort of, makes us watch and consume what it wants us to more than what we desire or even what maybe we should be a lot of the time. So, these are some of the reasons why I began the podcast. And we're not going to sit here and do a 2020 retrospective or 2021, but hey everybody, hello you, Jenny, Ben, go kart, good to see you, brother. Good to see a couple people here with me, thank you. But yeah, I'm not going to do, this isn't going to be one of those. All right, we're not doing that silliness. We're hanging out, we're sessioning, we're gonna dab it, okay, right now, in just a second here. So I hope you guys have some vitamin P handy in whatever form you may have it, and are planning on joining me here, getting safe. Southern Girl in Canada, hello. Elliot, hello, welcome. Happy New Year once again, everybody. So yeah, on the screen share here, you guys are going to see an interesting blog. I'm actually going to probably show the Wikipedia story about this character. I can't call her anything other than a character. First, this Violette Morris. We'll get to her in just a minute. Really interesting person who I just came across. Never have heard of before. Never have heard of in my life before. But apparently an interesting, interesting historical figure. But yeah, let's smoke. That's what I said we were going to do. We're live streaming. We're hanging out. If that's not your weapon of choice, grab yourself a refreshing beverage. You guys still use torches in 2021? Anybody still dabbing with torches in 2021, or am I just a total caveman for doing it this way? What you guys will see me do with my quartz banger here is I'm going to get this guy pretty hot. There we go, Jason. That's what I'm talking about. I love sessioning with people online, virtually. You know what I mean? It's what we get these days. It's what we got. That's what we've got. There we go. The sun does it that way. This is, I don't know if this is like OG style or classic style, anymore. Half of everybody's got battery powered dab rigs these days too, right? Oh my gosh, you saw the poor woman get killed in the Capitol. Ben, horrible. Yeah, what a day today. We're kind of doing this right now, honestly, to just, I don't know, get out of that headspace for 5 minutes. Not that that's really possible today, because what the hell? What are we dealing with? I don't even know. So, guy like me, I'll still use a propane torch these days. We heat it up until it, just about starts glowing. And then I don't have to mentally count down too much anymore because I'm so used to this particular quartz banger. But 45, 50 seconds of cool down, will get me to a place where this will give me a really nice low temp dab. And hopefully you guys will see me take a nice satisfying dab without dying 1,000 deaths here right afterwards, right? So let's see how it does. Bob, I mean, the torch is just loud and wild seeming at first, right? That's over now. That part's over. Torch is off now. We're just letting this nice little glass cool down. Be a nice chill dab. And Bob, the other part of that is, don't go too big on your dabs, right? That's another great way to make sure you can enjoy it and not get wrecked. Is yeah, you got to cool it down, bro. You absolutely got to cool it down. Got to, get it hot. That's old school. Everybody used to dab off of that red banger. Craziness. Don't do that. No need. We're vaporizing here. That should be just about enough time, right? Let's see it. What do you guys think? Does weed destroy the lungs? I don't think so. I don't really think so. I don't mind the vape pens. They don't get me where this gets me. You know what I mean? Southern Girl, they really don't. So, but thank you to everybody who's hanging right now. I know we got like 14 people hanging out. That's so rad. Cheers to all of you. So we are doing a live stream and goofing off, but I wanted to share with you guys something. It's not exactly like podcast content. And I didn't know where this would fit in talking about the podcast. I'm telling you, Bob, sometime we could session virtually sometime. You get a friend to bring over their dab rig, somebody who'll treat you right, and we'll have a great session together. I really actually, for anybody who's a little bit, nervous or intimidated by dabbing still, big pluses to dabbing, just to wrap up on this part of the topic, are it's almost odorless. Okay. There are people who dab too much and don't practice good oral hygiene and stuff like that, and they stink. All right. That's not what's up. All right. We keep it clean around here. So it's basically odorless. We just vaporize. There's no real stinky smoke in the room. I'm a parent. I can, just like with a vape pen, I can duck up to my zone, take a quick dab, and just like the vape pen, you don't smell when you go back down to be with the family, or go back to whatever you were doing, socializing with friends and stuff like that. So there's I think that's a huge plus. It also, although it takes a moment to get that thing heated up and then cooled back down and then take the dab itself, you can easily tailor the size of that, single dab a little bigger if you need to, get a big, big-ish rip, like a bong rip, and you're cruising for a while. You're solid. You know what I mean? It's not always about like a dab session where you're going to sit there and, just, smoke yourself into a nap, right? So that's, Greg Whistler, thank you, brother. I miss the gram still right now. That's like cigarettes. Okay. This is kind of the hardest thing I've had to quit, that being Instagram, since smoking cigarettes. Seriously. I am going to do podcast content on that, on Instagram's terms of service. We've talked about terms of service in the past on the podcast. I have an episode entitled Terms of Service. I actually worked really hard on that one back in like 2018 or early 2019 when I did that one. It taught me a lot about terms of service at the time. It was focused on YouTube terms of service and changes that had happened at that time on YouTube. These new Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp terms of service are even more insidious. It has been enough that finally, after like over 7 years of being on Instagram and being really active on Instagram and using that the whole time since it began. Miguel, welcome. Hello, brother. Happy New Year. Thanks for cruising through. For being on Instagram, we're talking about Instagram right now. I had to get off. It's always appealed to my vanity. Being on Instagram, I've always enjoyed, not just like getting, I guess we all just enjoy getting the likes, right? Whatever. But I liked and enjoyed very much sharing, what we're up to, what we're about, what we do, what we look like, what our space is, etc. Instagram was my outlet for that. The podcast certainly is not really most of the time. Increasingly, we do YouTube. I do YouTube activities and YouTube based stuff, YouTube specific stuff. But, the podcast for the last 3 years, that hasn't been visual, and it isn't visual. That's the nature of that medium. I've been off Facebook for about, going on 2 years now. And that was easier to quit because Facebook was, more shitty and less fun, right? Instagram is more like the highlights, the fun stuff that you wanted to look at on Facebook anyway, in a lot of cases. And it was something that I relied on heavily to promote the podcast. So I'm rolling into 2021, you guys, in all seriousness, like anybody who's here with me right now, listening to this, I need everybody's help more than I ever have. I really need you guys to, share something out of my library with somebody sometime. It doesn't have to be today. It doesn't have to be this live stream. The terms are bad. All of you guys need to look into those terms. I'm not even kidding you guys. Showing Greg's comment there. They're real bad. Cigarettes, $8 a pack in Michigan. So I think I quit smoking Marlboro Reds back in my middle to late 20s. It was, I dabbled for, like a year after I was starting to try to quit. Left them behind around like 27, 28 years old, which is going back a ways now. And the packs had just gone above like $5 a pack. And I remember losing my mind when they went above like $3.50 a pack a couple years before that, because I smoked for like 7 or 8 years, pretty solidly in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s. $8 a pack. I can't even imagine. I never had the money to buy them by the cartons back then. Wouldn't want to do it now. It cuts way too much into my weed budget, frankly. You know what I'm saying, Ben? $8 a pack in Michigan. So anyway, Yeah, 8 to 10 a pack. That's crazy. No way, Jose. Not going there. Right there it is. Bob says 8 to 10 a pack. So anyway, guys, the terms are bad. The terms of service of all of these apps that we live with, that we rely on so much, are super invasive and super exploitative of us. And I am not, engaging in any kind of hyperbole by saying those things at all. In fact, the only way you can feel otherwise after looking at any terms of service at all in detail, reading any of them, the only way you can feel okay about it is through a willful act of, no, fuck it, I'm not going to worry about that. Like literal willful ignorance, right? That's what the definition of ignorance is. You're ignoring something. So, yeah, that's what's up with that. So, yeah, forget cigarettes, forget all that. I'm saying Instagram is like cigarettes. All these social media platforms really are just as addictive as that kind of thing, and as useful as I have found it, and as many reasons as I have given myself to stay hooked into it, and as much as it has given me the community that I have online, what little reach, you know, and I say what little, but I mean, oh my God, I'm so fortunate. You know, I'm sitting here streaming on freaking YouTube, live to God knows where. You know, I got 15 of you chilling with me for real right now, wherever you are, in different places, giving up your own precious time of your lives. I know from my podcast host that podcast goes out to 25, 30 countries in the world. I mean, the internet's unbelievable. You know, all of it is unbelievable. I do know how powerful. Yeah, there you go, Glenn. Stay off that shit. You know what I mean? I got on once or twice super tactically in the last year to literally look at a post in a group. And, you know, and so that gives lie to my very statements. Okay. I'm off Instagram. I'm off Facebook. I didn't delete my Facebook account. I still haven't. Don't check my shit. Don't message me there. I'm not going to answer you. Don't comment on my pictures there. I'm not going to see it. There's hundreds of notifications there. I don't look at them. How do you leave it though? All right. I actually went to the trouble of pulling down some kind of, you know, 2-year-old version of my archive of my Facebook when I stopped posting on there. So I don't really feel like I have to pull anything else off of that. I have that on a hard drive here, ostensibly one of my, you know, 1 terabyte little Seagates. That should be most, if not all of my Facebook is on there along with some other old shit. Instagram has a similar process that you need to go through. Yeah, it's like, how do we keep staying connected if you keep tightening all the rules? I don't know. But yeah, see, that's the thing. You know, they make it similarly labyrinthine to get to an archive. You can get to it though in Instagram in your settings, so you can pull down your account if you want to. If you go and look at this and understand the extent to which they want camera privileges, they want access to your messages, they want access to biometrics. When I say camera privileges, I don't mean your camera roll of photos that you've taken pictures of that you may or may not have shared to Instagram. I'm talking about this camera here that's looking at me as we sit here and hang out. It's tough, you Jenny. It's like, you know, Instagram, you know, Facebook before that gave me what community I have, what reach I have in the world. And so to turn my back on it, to turn my back on Facebook fully seems, you know, self-defeating, right? Potentially. But I'm doing it. Okay. I'm doing it. And so the long ass thing that I was trying to say there was, I'm not off YouTube yet. I got that library, LBRY. That seems to be updating. Okay. Seems to be synced pretty nicely with YouTube. It seems like a pretty cool tool for archiving your YouTube, beginning to try to like mirror your community or give your community a place to go if they need to to keep getting your content. Should I lose my YouTube for some reason? Looking at my banger, wondering if it's about to sign off on me. That'll be fun, right? If I take another dab and the torch makes my banger explode and it falls and burns my leg and burns the house down, that'll be great. Let's try it in a minute here. We'll try it in a minute. So anyway, share the podcast, please. Share the YouTube channel, please. Share my intro to the Mole Atlas video that's on the home screen of my YouTube channel. Would be wonderful. I feel like it's a good representative of a small snippet of interesting content, a tidbit about Tartaria, for example, specifically, that I feel like I found and talked about first, and I actually still am waiting for anybody else to talk about it, that particular map. But maybe it's just not interesting enough for anybody else to take up the torch and look at it as well. But I've still got access to that document if anybody wants it. It comes from the U.S. National Archives. So cool doc, cool map. Anyhow, all right, what are we looking at? We're looking at Raymond Ruffin over here, but I want to give you guys the Wikipedia page because we'll give you like the super overview of Violette Morris, Violette Morris first. And let's see if I can can I do that any better for you guys? Make that bigger. Okay, we'll go there. All right. So, Silodrome, a Instagram account that I followed. This is one of the last posts I've seen on Instagram, and I saw it on the desktop. We're moving on from the social media discussion now. Okay, everybody, officially. All right. We're moving on to Violetta Morris. So Silodrome posts a article about lady drivers of the late 19th and early 20th century. And this lady, Violette Morris, was pictured about 4 different times, and she in a montage of photos on this post on Instagram. Silodrome, great account, great automotive account. If you're still on the platform, I'm still advocating for you guys to leave Instagram. I really do mean it. But if you're on there, check them out because they're pretty amazing if you're into motorsport at all, particularly vintage. But let's read about Violette super briefly. She was, I've already established for you, a race car driver of some note. She lived from 1893 till 1944. A very historic period of time, of course. So Violette was an outstanding and versatile French athlete who won 2 gold and 1 silver medal at the Women's World Games in 1921. In 1922, she was later banned from competing for violating, quote, moral standards. During World War II, she was accused of collaboration with Nazis and the Vichy French regime. I wonder if I'm going to be in trouble for actually, well, I already used it in the thumbnail, didn't I? So, for using the N-word. She was killed in 1944 in a resistance-led ambush. So, yeah, we have a woman who, as a young woman, was a celebrated athlete who went on to be characterized as a spy, or maybe even a, what do they call it? What's a double spy? You know what I'm talking about, a double spy. During World War II. And first she was a hero. First she was a war hero, by the way. Okay. And then she was eventually killed by guerrillas or, vigilantes, something like that. So I found the Wikipedia article writing interesting. And so we'll see this here. Wait, we got a couple of comments here. Let me see if I can see those as well. Double A. Thank you, Glenn Elliott. Double spy. Double age. So, This wiki article just had interesting language and wording, and it cited a pretty amazing source in the form of this one blog in particular, which also is heavily, it's a lot more of an academic feeling blog. We'll get to that in just a moment. Let's see here. Okay. Early life, the youngest of 6 sisters. She was born to Baron Pierre Jacques Maurice, a retired French Army cavalry captain. So, okay, so a baron's daughter. So, minor noble, right? Elizabeth Marie Antoinette Betsy Sakakini of Palestinian Arab origin was her mother. Maurice spent her adolescence in a convent, L'Assomption de Huy. All right, that's the best I can do. She married Cyprien Edward Joseph Gourard on 22 August 1914 in the 8th arrondissement of Paris. I think that's a famous historic district, right? Now they show us. They divorced in May 1923. So, she, you may not be super surprised to come to find out this woman turned out to be bisexual or lesbian as she, came into her adulthood. She was a gifted athletic career. Becoming anyway, I'm saying the marriage, by the way, was it seemed to end just after a few years, and the words about it that were written about it were that it felt like an arranged marriage kind of thing, a marriage of appearances more than anything else. I don't know if they had any children together. We'll find out. Maurice was a gifted athlete, becoming the first French woman to excel at shot put and discus, and playing on 2 separate women's football teams. Football probably here, of course, means soccer to those of us in North America, in the United States anyway. She played for Femina Sports from 1917 till 1919 and for Olympique de Paris from 1920 to 1926. Both teams are based in Paris. She played on the French women's national team. So this, she was a Tiger Woods or, more like a Jesse Owens or a Bo Jackson, right? A multi-sport athlete of her era. In addition to her football career, she was an active participant in many other sports. This is where it gets interesting to me. She was selected for the French national water polo team, even though there was no women's team at the time. Hilarious. They're like, you're in. She was an avid boxer, often fighting against and defeating men. She became French national champion in 1923. Among the other sports she participated in were road bicycle racing, motorcycle racing, car racing, airplane racing, horseback riding, tennis, archery, diving, swimming, weightlifting, and Greco-Roman wrestling. So, just love it. What was left? What's left? Was regular polo in there? I mean, she was racing horses, horseback riding. She was probably doing it all, steeplechase, polo. Her most brilliant athletic years considered to be 1921 and 1924, when her slogan was "C'est qu'un homme fait, Violette peut le faire." English: anything a man can do, Violette can do. In 1924, she participated at the 1924 Women's Olympiad, again taking gold in discus and shot put. She later won the 1927 Boldor 24-hour car race at the wheel of a BNC. So she apparently made no secret of her orientation, and her lifestyle really interfered with her career quite a bit. At a certain point, it got to really, give her some trouble, as we'll find out here. Yeah, I scrolled away there for a moment. Can I make that bigger for you guys? I don't know if that's any better for you guys. It's probably better for me. I'm looking at it on my second screen for some stupid reason. Maybe move that over here. Will that be like just way better for me? It's really not bad, to be honest. let's see what happens now. There we go. That's the one I was looking for, you guys. Hi, everybody. I'm back. All right. Morris's lifestyle in the 1920s was quite different from the traditional role of women. In addition to her wide-ranging athletic activities, Morris deviated from traditional behaviors of the time in several other ways. She was homosexual. She dressed in men's attire. She was a heavy smoker and swore often. I guess the thing about that, too, is it was publicly, like she was in the public eye doing the swearing and stuff like that. So, just unapologetic, right? She wasn't having it. I love it. In 1928, the Fédération Féminine Sportive de France, French Women's Sports Federation, refused to renew her license amid complaints about her lifestyle, and she was therefore barred from participating in the 1928 Summer Olympics. So there's the, career impact, especially on her Olympic career, based on her lifestyle. So interestingly, they cited her lack of morals, in particular her penchant for wearing men's clothing. She had also punched a football referee. Afterward, Morris decided to undergo an elective mastectomy, which she claimed was in order to fit into racing cars more easily. After 1928, her auto racing license was revoked on similar moral grounds, and Morris started a car parts store in Paris. Could you imagine doing that? If the stated reason was, the true reason, and, we don't need to read into it any further than that. It's, anyway, and then to more or less forthwith be banned from racing anyway in a matter of a year or so. Let's see. She went bankrupt. Her car parts store that she started building racing cars with went bankrupt because she was, kind of out of the racing scene. In 1930, she unsuccessfully sued. So, you can see here she's going on a bit of a downward trend in that aspect of her career. This is an interesting lady to me. So let's see, in 1930, she unsuccessfully sued, claiming damages. That French racing society, all right, the French Women's Sports Federation, FFSF is what they have here. She literally claimed she couldn't work, right? You guys ruined my career. During the trial, an obscure ordinance from 1800, this is 1928, you guys, not like, it's almost 100 years ago now, but it's not the 1800s anymore. It's 1928. And they cite an ordinance from 1800 forbidding women to wear trousers. That ordinance was cited and used against her. A historian claimed that if her homosexuality was not directly targeted in the trial, it was made an issue throughout. So, one of the people going after her was a French women's rights advocate, like a big feminist, but later went down in history as such, but apparently wasn't on Morris's side in this case. So here's a little quote from her that's kind of interesting. I don't know, just it's a little like she's already getting a little bitter here, you can tell. This is attributed to Morris. This is right after she loses in court to the FFSF. Probably had to pay court fees and everything, for having sued and lost, right? We live in a country made rotten. This is Morris. We live in a country made rotten by money and scandals, ruled by speechifiers, schemers, and cowards. This country of little people is not worthy of its elders, not worthy of survival. Someday its decay will bring it to the level of a slave. But if I'm still here, I won't be one of the slaves. Believe me, it's not in my temperament. We see her here, looking decidedly different than her early years. You see here, she was arrested and acquitted for homicide. I'm telling you guys, this woman lived. She really, really had some experiences. Let's jump from Wikipedia, though. I think this story will be covered in the blog. Let's jump from Wikipedia over to that other spot. All right, 13 of you. I don't know how you got here. I'm so glad you're here. 12. I know you're going to come. You're going to go. Love you anyway. Thank you, guys. Let's go to the next. Raymond Ruffin's blog. So I guess Mr. Ruffin here, who you see pictured up top, this isn't really his blog. This is a blog in memoriam or homage to Raymond Ruffin, who was a historian of some note. I don't know. I've never read the guy. I've never, he died in 2007. So somebody else maintains this on behalf of, some of the work he did. And I think there's some other stuff here on the Raymond Ruffin blog besides Violette Morris. But here he has her spelled as Violette, not with the E-T-T-E, as we saw over on Wikipedia. But so Mr. Ruffin's gone. This is his work on Violette Morris, and I won't read absolutely every word of it for you guys. Let's leave Violette, a young Violette, still in her prime, racing here. Super amazing, interesting photo to me. This cycling photo, it's probably a velodrome board track, indoor criterium type setup that she's got going on here with the forks reversed. Most track cyclists might agree with me that probably would quicken up the steering quite a bit on that fork, but it's obviously done on purpose here. Her handlebars are oriented correctly. That's the bicycle rider in me critiquing the whole build and everything. Obviously a big beefy sprocket on the front, big single speed, great bike. Interesting kit. She's probably going to ride later that day, or maybe has already had her session and is on her way in or on her way out, kind of a liminal moment here, half ready to ride, half ready to carry it off onto the tram and head home for the day, perhaps. But let's see if we can't smoke one more time together and then read a little bit more about Violette, and then I'll probably get ready to let you guys go. Because we're just having fun today, and I hope you guys like Violette here. We haven't even really gotten to the most interesting, crazy parts about her life at all by a long shot. So, if anybody cares, Stone Brewing, Cosmic Rhinestone IPA. I don't know, some big case we got. There we go, Glenn. Right, I'm slacking here. I said we were smoking, right, and I really haven't been yakking. I don't know how tall she is. We could look, Petro, or why don't you look while I'm talking about it, and we will, if you find it, put it in the chat, and I will put it on screen for everybody. Torching it up again. Torching it up one more time. I'm gonna be turnt after this dab for sure, you guys. I don't need 2 dabs this quick. I'm just doing this for you guys. Doing it for sport. Doing it for Violette. Oh, dude, she's so impressive. So impressive. Humble disciples. I'm using the non-gender specific dude there, my friend. No assumptions. Likewise with Violette, who probably transcends gender, clearly. She's some third greater being. She's unbelievable. Mud Fossil Gaia, welcome. Hello. We're taking the quickest of breaks. You can't really dab and read at the same time. This is Violette Morris. You're just getting here. Very amazing individual. Lived her adulthood in the 1920s and 30s and was assassinated in the 1940s. Assassinated, executed. Yep, Jason. We're doing it. So like I said earlier, get her glowing. Let her cool down. The banger didn't explode. I said a little earlier, I saw a funny spot on the back of the banger that looked like it was like getting ready to do something wacky, like fracture on me. Get more dab out of it. It's not the oldest banger, but I don't think these things last forever. I do break them all eventually. So usually just through mishap, knocking it over or something. Not usually through pure heat cycles. So yeah, get her hot. Maybe let it glow. Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate it, humble disciples. No, exactly. So this is an interesting story, and there's some interesting sort of nuance about who she was or wasn't, and what she was or wasn't doing, and maybe why, I guess. I don't know. I think history is decided, you know what I mean? History has said what they have to say about her, and I think she's been relegated. And I'm not here to redeem, or rehabilitate anybody's reputation. I literally just found out about this person the other day from a random Instagram post. Mazel tov, everybody, once again. I quit smoking cigarettes because it was affecting things like riding bicycles, things like going hiking, trying to, play sports, play a little soccer and stuff like that. Like I might have still been doing at that time. I never really slacked off much on my cannabis consumption, but I feel like my lungs got a lot better after I left the tobacco behind. And, that's 20 years in my rear view now at this point. And, yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I said it earlier, like jokingly, right? Could you guys think weed really kills your lungs or not? I feel like personally, so far, no. That said, I'll probably drop dead next week, right? Of super lung cancer. But anyhow, all right, we're back. Thank you, humble disciples. Thank you, anybody who, as I said earlier, helps me by sharing the channel in the coming year, because I'm off of Instagram and I'm off of Facebook, and it's probably going to be detrimental. I really hope not. I really hope that I can just do a good job, kick out content at a reasonable rate. You guys know I never just churn it out every 2 days just for the sake of saying I was in front of the camera or in front of a microphone for you guys. I kind of hate that shit. So, and maybe it's just because I'm lazy, or maybe it's just because I think I'm too busy. I don't know. Not really any of those things. All right. So, but yeah, seriously, need your help. Share the channel. Pretty please. Love you guys. Long time. Violette Morris. She ain't playing. Amazon to the Nazis. That's what they call her in a book. Or this is an article by Yasmin Yousai on the blog. And I think basically what we got here is, let's see here. There ends up being a little bit more of a back and forth conversation, like I said, about who Violette was or wasn't. Here they go over her and regale her early accomplishments, right? Weights, boxing, football. No sport could resist Violette Morris. So here they show it Violette right below, up top, it's Violet. So 5'5", so not really that tall. Interesting. Totally average height. Thank you, Petro. Good job. That's what I'm talking about. That's community right there. Hive mind, right? Violette Morris, an extraordinary athlete who loved women and had her breasts cut to be comfortable behind the wheel. But in 1940, she began to serve Vichy and the Germans. So, she was a collaborator in occupied France, is what I'm gathering here. A comic strip, Violette Morris, to be killed by all means. Comic strips were used, as political journalism, right? Yes, shout out Pietro Foley handling business for us. Thank you. Comics were used as political journalism at the time, right? In the newspapers. So let's see. A comic strip, Violette Morris, to be killed by all means, at Futuropolis, looks back on the one we have long nicknamed the hyena of the Gestapo. A former collaborator had put her on the track. They were killed in retaliation for the murder of Violette Morris. Has anybody heard of Violette Morris, too, before today, ever? By the way, let me know if you have. Put it in the comments. I certainly never have until the other day. A former collaborator had put her on the track. They were killed in retaliation for the murder of Violette Morris. Violette Morris, ? Until then, historian Marie-Joseph Bonnet had never heard of this name, right? Neither had the historian. In this year, 2005, she has something else in mind to elucidate the mystery of the 80 shot in Caen prison, executed on June 6th, 1944. Let me bring this stupid tab over to my main screen. Hello. There we go. Hello. To elucidate the mystery of the 80 shot in Caen prison, executed on June 6th, 1944, and whose bodies have never been found. Wow. Yeah. So, Morris is implicated in this, okay? Because of Violette Morris, then, ? Her birth and death dates, again, 1893 to 1944. She died in 44 in this incident. This sport legend with multiple victories, this imposing woman, still dressed in a suit and a silk tie, immortalized in 1932 at Monocle, a lesbian nightclub in Paris, by Brassai. The hyena of the Gestapo, as the historian and novelist Raymond Ruffin called her. So he was born in 29. Okay, so he was born and living and old enough by 44 to have been cognizant of her as a young adult himself, right? So that's interesting. He would have vivid kind of childhood memories of her being like a superstar of his era. Who devoted 2 biographies to her, ? To find out more. Why am I reading the punctuation to you guys? It has nothing to do with the weed, okay? But do stay in school, kids. To find out more, Marie-Joseph Bonnet plunged into the misogynistic and condescending books of the latter. She discovers there the portrait of a high-level sportswoman able to beat men on their own ground. A car champion who had her breasts cut to be more comfortable at the wheel. A traitor, too. Recruited by the German SD, in parentheses, the SS Intelligence Service, in 1936, to which she delivered ultra-confidential military documents. Okay, sounds pretty bad. A monster above all, who did not hesitate to denounce and torture resistance fighters when she officiated at the Gestapo under the occupation. Until London ordered its elimination, which the Norman Marquis Surcouf took charge of on April 26, 1944. Except that something did not fit in the works of the biographer. Okay, so I do want to point out for you guys, and again, I'm not going to read this entire blog because it's no joke. It's yeah, okay. But there's a lot of amazing photos here that I do want to show you a few of, right? And you do want to hear a little bit more about who she is because she's wild. So the language, this is what I'm trying to tell you guys as I, scroll and lose the place where I went. Here we are. We're back about there now. The style of this blog is interesting. I think it's taken from this one article that was posted, this Yasmini Youssef, or whoever wrote the article at the top. Forgive me. We'll go back up and reread that name correctly. It'll be cited a little bit down below. And then it appears to be the Raymond Ruffin gentleman who's sort of refuting some of what the article indicates, which, the article is to a small extent, you'll see kind of, this is the more normal reading part of things, although it's already a little bit clipped and interesting. Ruffin's response is even more kind of, it's unique. It's he's got his own style. It's an older style of, I think, like newsroom journalistic kind of clipped writing. I don't know. It's like he's trying to pack maximum info into every sentence and gives the reader, full credit for having the necessary context to not need to fill in those blanks. So, okay, so let's try to get back into the story here for you guys. The stories were not the same from one book to another, lists Marie-Joseph Bonnet. Okay, this story is about the historian who went to find out about a person who they'd never heard of. Nobody had really heard of, kind of, at least to them. And now they find interesting and kind of divergent histories, what little they find about this person. The stories are not the same from one book to another. Ruffin gave the name of the Marquis that Violette Morris would have denounced or had worked on the Norman resistance and had never seen her name. Ruffin gave the name of the Marquis that Violette Morris would have denounced, or I had worked on the Norman resistance and had never seen her name. See here again, this is not perfectly comprehensible. I was even more disturbed by the absence of sources. None are cited. So this person, Marie-Joseph Bonnet, I believe is calling into question Ruffin's work there. So the historian shows the zero investigation. She has since drawn a biography, in parentheses 2011, and today a comic book in 4 volumes, concocted with Javi Ray, Bertrand Gallic, and Chris, whose first opus has just been released. She's not the only one to have taken an interest in Violette Morris. I should try to find that biography in this comic book. That would be an interesting thing to find, a Violette Morris comic book. She's not the only one to have taken an interest, although no one has taken historical research so far. American novelist Francine Prose dedicates her Deux Amantes du Au Caméléon to her. That was in 2015. Ditto for Gerard de Cortanza with Femme qui Court, published recently. So let's see here. Violette Morris never ceased to claim her freedom to be, to be. At a time when a real history of women is finally being written and of LGBT community, at a time when women's sport is beginning to be recognized as a sport in its own right, the character's fascinating because Violette Morris has never ceased to prove by her sporting exploits that the inequality between men and women has no biological basis, and to claim her freedom to be. Until the compromise, because she worked well for Vichy and for the Nazis. Daughter of colonial officers, she nevertheless counts among her family a Jewish paternal grandmother from Constantine, Zaira Bent Krula, and maternal grandparents from a wealthy Levantine family settled in Belgium at the end of the 19th century. It was there that she was sent to boarding school at the Assumption Convent in Huy, a revelation, pushed by the sisters, barely out of school. So again, guys, this is a massive story. This is about her earlier adolescence and moving, into the public eye. They do point out right about here, as a worthy soldier's daughter, again, her father was a baron, she who discovered a taste for two-wheelers immediately joined the group of motorcycle dispatch riders of the Red Cross, then to the ambulance service of the Second Army from Castelnau to Amiens, with the mission of recovering bodies at the front. Like, that was one of her jobs in World War I. Because I think at this time she was like a nurse. A condition called pleurisy. You guys see it right here, pleurisy. I'm not really sure what pleurisy is. Brought her back to Parisian civilian life in 1917. Let's see here. So she had to like come back on medical, right? That took her out of action out of World War I. But so she's a World War I veteran on, I guess, the right side of World War I, right? For France, for home country. Anyway, let's see. No trace of her in the archives of the German SD or the Gestapo. Here we go. Here's an interesting little, kind of, this is some of the question, right? We already talked about how her career was ruined for being gay and for being flamboyant and for cursing too much in the 1920s, wearing pants. What could have pushed Violette Morris into the arms of Vichy or the Nazis? I gotta stop saying the N-word, you guys. Okay. I don't know what'll happen. We're not monetized. We're not. I don't know. Yeah. We're literally just reading history. I don't know. Just seems get a shiver down my spine, right? There's no writing, no letter expressing his political opinions. Marie Joseph Bonnet puts forward a hypothesis: opportunism. In quotes, this is the historian. She wanted to drive, to keep driving. But only the victors can allow it. We thus find her, driver of Colonel Sarton du Jonchée, a friend of the family recently appointed in charge of mission at the Hotel Matignon in the Laval government, who will join the sinister legion of French volunteers against Bolshevism, created in 1941 to support on the Eastern Front. That year, Violette Morris took over the management of a Parisian garage requisitioned by the Luftwaffe. She also agrees to take part in the supply of the Lutetia Hotel in Paris, which houses the Abwehr, the intelligence service of the German army, which leads her to Normandy, where she presents herself under the identity of Mr. Andre. This is how she will find death. No, because London demanded his execution. So it's interesting here. This was all. So this was updated in 2019. It was posted in 2019. I went way back up and I was way down here. I feel like a lot of what we see here is we see like pronouns being switched from she to he partway through, sort of indicating that Violette was transitioning in even her public identity to, identifying as a man. And so but it was during an era, I think, where a lot of the writing that was done on her really predates any usage of like they or anything like that as a substitute. And so therefore we see like switching back and forth to a small extent in the way they address Violette in the story here. Mr. Andre, however, my spot, of course, so that's why I'm going to, I was using my search function to get back to Mr. Andre. So this is how she will find death. That was her spy name, cover name, right, at the time. So I'm probably by myself now. 16. Oh my God, 16 people. Love you guys. Hello. Pleurisy. That's what I need. Talking about it. Humble disciples. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Come back. A little extreme, I'm telling you. Pleurisy. Let's read about pleurisy super quick. Pleurisy, also known as pleuritis, is inflammation of the membranes that surround the lungs and line the chest cavity. This can result in a sharp chest pain while breathing. She was said to smoke like 3 packs a day, BTW. They detail it here in to some extent. So that's great. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Brilliant. Let's see what. All right. So that's where my story is. We're off wiki. I'm going to close that one out. Thank you, Petro, for the pleurisy definition. Love it. Love it. Love it. And I do, it's funny. I think Amazonian in this context is sort of a euphemism. Okay. A polite way of saying she's a little too masculine, perhaps a little too, presenting in a way other than a seemly lady of the times is my guess. Amazons being, if not exclusively tall, mythically warlike and therefore a bit masculine, I suppose, right? So that's my guess on that, Petro. Totally fine to refer to her as such in the media of the time, right? It's fine. Just no biggie. So let's see here. The historian, that being Ruffin, getting back to the story here, you guys, may have looked for it. No trace of her in the archives of the German SD or the French Gestapo. No concrete testimony either of denunciations or participation in torture sessions. No more than a responsibility in the execution of the 80 shot in Caen prison. There remains a woman ready to do anything to live as she sees fit, bravely assuming her identity at a time that refused her it, passed from light to shade, flamboyant by her sporting exploits, inexcusable for her execrable attitude during the war. An extraordinary character who speaks of the complexity of men, the best and worst they have. So those are like the original citations from that article. Okay, so we're going to get past that and go to travesting of history. We're going to come back down. So the writer of that article, I know I'm scrolling like crazy. Sorry, you guys. There we go. Yasmin UC. Okay, and maybe this was posted in 2019 by Yasmin. So we go down to travesting of history. So this must be the administrator of this blog, who is a Ruffin supporter and Ruffin's history, and I guess Ruffin's history of Morris here, sort of responding to Yasmin's article. I could have read it right here. It's right in front of us. Right here is Yasmin. You see, you didn't have no frantic scrolling necessary, Steve. On reading the article, so let's read about this. Let's get this from this person. On reading the article entitled L'Amazon et les Nazis by Yasmin UC, in parentheses, Telerama number 3601. So we could probably find the original source in its original form there if we could find that online somewhere. I could only be shocked as the son of Raymond Ruffin by the content of some of his statements. Okay, so this is Ruffin's son. So this is literally Ruffin's estate who maintains this blog. So I love it. And he seems smart, so let's listen to him. The author of the article, in fact, adopts the thesis of Marie-Joseph Bonnet, author of Violette Morris, Histoire de d'une scandaleuse. So I guess one reason to have it on the second screen for sure. Oh, I know what to do is to move you guys to the second screen. Sorry, I love you guys. There we go. Then I can see your comments, and I'll look over there to check them. And I can read this over here. Genius. Brilliant. Two screens, by the way. If you're not on the two-screen program, get with the times, okay? Even your old computers by now, they can support two screens. Your laptop, if you're a laptop person, both of my screens are like thrift store screens. One came from a lady who passed away. Thank you, Deanna. Rest your soul. And one came from the thrift shop. So I'm in my displays like $12 total, okay? Literally. Two screens. I'm all about it. So there we go. Yeah, dab time was a few minutes ago, but thank you. No, Glenn, that's what I'm saying. This woman is totally wild. Totally wild. Like, there's obviously more here, you guys. There's books on her. We're just looking at one interesting blog that has a really kind of a vested interest because of Ruffin's kind of life's work having been built around this biography, I guess. So he could only be shocked as the son of Raymond Ruffin by the content of some of his statements. The author of the article, in fact, adopts the thesis of Marie-Joseph Bonnet, author of Violette Morris' Histoire d'une Scandaleuse, against the works of my father, devoted to it, without further ado, to Violette Morris in particular, La Hyène de la Gestapo. So this is the guy who's got the clipped writing style. So he's just making a case right now. He's about to cite these guys, these people, and sort of, rectify and reinforce the fidelity of his dad's work. Two books, two analyses. Controversies not decided to date that the article could have at least evoked. Yet, he says, exclamation point. Yasmin UC immediately evokes the hyena of the Gestapo, as the historian and novelist Raymond Ruffin nicknamed him, who devoted two biographies to him, and adds, to find out more, Marie-Joseph Bonnet plunged into the misogynistic and condescending, in bold, books of the latter, and again in bold, in which she sees, on what bases, an unfounded portrait and a biased biography. Small clarification. First of all, it was Auguste Le Breton and not Raymond Ruffin who had known her well during her foray into the middle in 1940 and 41, who had thus nicknamed Violette Morris. Violette Morris, who for Marie-Joseph Bonnet would have been only a banal black market trafficker whose death was the result of an error made by the Norman Marquis, and not a collaborator whose assassination would have been ordered either by the intelligence service or by the Central Bureau of Information and Action, as Raymond Ruffin demonstrated in his works. So again, Violette Morris was to that historian Bonnet a banal black market trafficker, a person caught up but not this big spy. But he's asserting that, his father, Mr. Ruffin, demonstrated this amply in his works. Yasmin UC therefore resumes this thesis without hesitation, thus eliminating the works of Raymond Ruffin, that she even refrains from citing in her bibliographical references. Admittedly, this one will not be able to defend herself. It had the misfortune of disappearing in 2007, well before the publication of the work of Marie-Joseph Bonnet, published in 2011. So I guess we could find that history if you want the Bonnet history, right? Never mind, she quotes it, nevertheless an incalculable number of times, reproaching him in particular for his absence of sources concerning in particular the activity of espionage, denunciation, and torture of resistance fighters of Violette Morris. From then on, Marie-Joseph Bonnet confronts an impressive mass of documents to finally retain only assumptions. This absence of sources was also underlined by Raymond Ruffin, in particular in an interview given to FR3, in which he noticed that there were few archives on the activity of Violette Morris, particularly during the terrible period of Lauriston Street. The reason? In the hope of wiping out all traces of crimes committed, Bonnie meticulously destroyed archives and compromising files. The files were burned in the Leclerc division, which will invest the premises at the Liberation and find nothing. Weird sentences. For lack of archives, Raymond Ruffin then investigated, finding witnesses and survivors who had known Violette Morris well. Okay, yeah, so, he's basically explaining that literally, okay. The files were burned. And the Leclerc division, which will invest the premises at the library, they'll investigate. Invest is investigate, y'all. All right. The premises at the library, they'll investigate the premises at the library and find nothing. The files were burned. I love it. For lack of archives, Raymond Ruffin then investigated, finding witnesses and survivors who had known Violette Morris well. So, classic, real, rigorous research, journalistic or research, academic research. He's looking for primary sources, or the closest thing he can get to primary sources, right? And who is that? Who's a primary source on Violette Morris? Former resistance fighters of the Maquis Surcouf, or victims of his torturing activities, also mentioned by various authors. Darius Rahali and Gilles Perrault and Jean-Pierre Azema, and even in a form romanticized by Patrick Modiano. So, guys, I'm telling you, I could go on. So basically, okay, look at the sidebar over here. Look at the length of that scroll. You saw it earlier if you were here earlier. Okay. Long before Morris was tied to the Nazis, she was known for something quite basic. Her physical size, she was described as a colossus. Yeah, weird. I mean, she looked really muscular. And in some of these images, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm telling you guys right now, the link is at the top. I'll put it in a description for you. I'll leave it, here when this live goes up as a regular video on the channel, so you can get to this blog, because it doesn't take that long to read when you're reading it yourself, but it'll take me reading it to you, the better part of another 30 minutes or more. And I think you want to read this if you came this far and you enjoyed finding out anything about this lady. Just come read this blog. It may quench your curiosity. At the very least, it'll point you directly at the next sources, the next place on the trail to find out more. Look at these amazing images. She was well documented in her time, for who she was. And she was obviously highly controversial for so many different reasons. I mean, history's got her down as a murderer, a war criminal, a mass murderer. The one story there by Yasmin, I don't know if it totally seeks to rehabilitate her character so much as it kind of, at least to my mind, raised the thought to me, like, what do you do if you're her, living in her era, and you survived the invasion and occupation of your country by this seemingly indomitable force, and she was obviously guilty of collaborating by any standard. But I think the article was sort of saying, Was she caught up in who she wanted to be, who she was trying to be, who, any of us are trying to be ourselves, our full real selves? Was that at the cost of her countrymen? I don't think they even tried to say that would have been an okay trade. But yeah. So obviously, history hasn't completely forgotten her. There's books about her. I probably need to read one of these full biographies, maybe these two sort of competing biographies, that of Ruffin and that of Bonnet, which the Ruffin Sons blog goes on to roundly sort of refute the veracity of, and in the probably fairly righteous light of calling it out as apologist in some form. In the name of some like misplaced virtue signaling of some kind. So, is this a, did I stumble into an accidental, like, gender studies, war on the internet of somebody else's that doesn't matter to me or you or any of us? Maybe a little bit. I'm looking at a person who for sure was, amazing and impressive and special, and who, also got messed up in the head over time a little over what society wanted out of her, out of them. Even these pictures, some of them of her here young in her prime boxing, we know pro sports and even high level amateur sports are very much like sort of, meat markets, right? Modern NFL athletes, boxers, etc., are all paraded in front of the fans, in front of the owners, in elaborate recruiting rituals. You guys know what I'm talking about with that. These photos kind of seem, kind of interestingly exploitative. Yeah, so to round out that comment that I just removed there that I was displaying, she seems, like she was definitely being shown off as physically impressive, and here she is, just chucking this javelin. That thing never came down. Some say that javelin is still flying today. Here we go. Here's Ruffin's book, La Diablesse. All right, so there we go. Find that one. It came out in 1989. I'm going to try to find that one. That's Ruffin's book, for sure. We'll go from there. There's a few more great. Oh, here's Ruffin. I don't know if we can play that, though. I want to play it. I don't know if we should play it. I don't think we should play that. You guys go to this website. You'll be able to see Ruffin himself. Here he is again. Yeah, I think when I was thinking about how to share this and whether, like I said, this doesn't exactly like totally fit into a podcast. I couldn't like, I had to go look into her more after seeing photos of her in that Instagram post. It's one of the last Instagram posts I'm going to get to share with you guys, really, being that we're moving off of that shit. Violette Morris. I think she's a really interesting person. And I think, so there's Raymond Ruffin, Le Cherche Midi. La Haine de la Gestapo. Okay, so, you know, I think Yasmin accused Ruffin of coming up with this nickname for her, and Ruffin's son, of course, first said that that nickname came from someone else entirely. Excuse me. Probably my voice is telling me it's time to wrap it for you guys, right? So let's get control of this. What do we say? Yes. Len, she looked like she was killing it with that javelin. Like I said, the javelin's gone. Forget about it. Forget about it. I love it. So Violette Morse, that was, you know, that was the one story I wanted to show you guys that came out of nowhere, and I probably won't do a whole podcast on it later because I don't know that you know is really needed. This was it. We just did it kind of now, right? Check out the Raymond Ruffin blog. Boom. And then let's go back to our StreamYard. Let's bring you guys back over here with me. We're going to stop sharing that screen. Boom. All right. I don't know how. There's still 13 of you here. It's an hour and 21 minutes. What the fuck are you people doing? I love you guys. That's fantastic. Yeah. I was going to say last thing. We're going. Okay. We're getting out of here. You got to get back to it. I got to get back to it. We got stuff to do. 2021. It's happening. Here we are. We made it through 2020 somehow. I've done a couple of episodes on the podcast and about this topic already. And it's not like super easy to find. Like I don't like super clearly label it that way in my top line titles for things. I probably should do a better job with that. Maybe I added this topic, but prepping. Okay, fucking prepping. Excuse my French. I'm trying to do less of that too, speaking French. Going to talk about it a little bit more in 2021, just like casual prepping. Okay. I can see I'm losing a couple of you, and we've been here for a long time, and it's time to go. So anybody who in the future comes along and manages to watch this with me and make it this far, look forward to content about emergency preparedness, family preparedness, more from me in 2021. I've been doing it for years. I don't think of myself as like a big guru or a bushcraft dude or a, you know, tactical beard dude or anything else like that. This is my winter coat. I think it's coming in okay though, right? So we're going with it. The reason why I've been wearing my silly hat this entire time is because I wanted to talk to you guys about stuff like this, which is a baseball cap insert. I think these are called Scullers. This one also says Ergodyne inside of the back of it here. And this is like this is what I call my prepper hat, my practical, you know, urban civil unrest / natural disaster, you know, kind of lid. I got 2 of these. They're like $5 a piece. You can get this kind of thing on Amazon. No, I don't have an affiliate link for you or anything else like that. I've done a deplorable job of monetizing this whole venture, podcast, YouTube channel the entire time these past 3 years. As a matter of fact, just the other day, I got notification from Amazon that my little fledgling Amazon affiliates account was actually being canceled because I haven't recorded any sales in 180 days. So thanks, Amazon. Thanks, Amazon. Anyway, so yeah, stuff like this, stuff like what we already do around the house, around the yard. Many of you who do listen to the podcast do know we're, you know, half-assed urban homesteaders. All right, we garden our faces off. I have a couple of small but workable, you know, pretty permanent greenhouses out in our backyard. My wife has been the point leader on keeping chickens for us, for the family, for many years now. Since 2008 to 2009, we've had chickens here at the house. In recent years, we added quail, both for their eggs and as meat birds. So really interesting and awesome experience having them and adding them to the house. I kind of almost almost like them better than having chickens. Let me know if you guys would ever like to know more about that kind of stuff. We should do more of that this year, as well as part of this, talk about preparedness. We do seed saving, we do food preservation, all that kind of stuff. And we do talk about it on the podcast, but I'd like to do a little bit more. I don't want to, bill myself as like some kind of videographer, because I'm not like a great, like super amazing editor or anything like that. So I only want to share stuff that I can share and make any kind of like actual contribution with. So that'll drive the extent to which I do video on any given topic. Like, look forward to and expect to maybe see a tour of the greenhouse, for example, in the spring, right? Sometime. Right now it's like in winter house plant mode. There's some, plants literally overwintering out there. So, but very soon it'll transition into a working mode. And that's what, we've been about around here for years. So without acting like I'm, more of a amazing preparedness subject matter expert than I remotely am, I hope we can do some of that together in the coming year, and some of you guys will learn and find little interesting stuff. This is funny. It's a gadget. It's a gimmick even. It's not going to stop, rubber bullet from giving me, a concussion. But it might stop it from putting a dent in the top of my head. So, yeah, guys, thank you. We're about to be at an hour and 30 minutes live on a crazy, historic, weird, scary, eventful day in Washington, D.C. We haven't even commented on it. We've enjoyed. We've had a great time together. You guys have sessioned with me like champs. Thank you all so much. And this was better than I hoped it would be. So thank you guys. That's all absolutely attributed to every single one of you who hung out with me today during the stream. So we'll leave it up. Check out Violette Morris yourselves. Let's not forget what an amazing, character she was. I think I should have her back up on screen one last time. There we go. And yeah, let's do this again a whole bunch in 2021, right? Leave comments after the fact on this video. Pretty please, if you watched during the stream, let folks know that we had fun and that, Violette Morris was worth checking out. And, I'll be around. Glenn will be around. And this, I'm just trying to plan on being around. And when we're talking about the preparedness, it's about sticking around, trying to plan on sticking around. That's what that's about. So I hope that'll be welcome content for you guys as well in this coming year. You guys are amazing. Logan, thank you. There you go. You came in a little bit late. Go roll back and restart it. We sessioned. We learned about Violette Morris. Talked about a couple other things before that on the front end. And yeah, and that's it. This is great. We'll do it more. You know what I mean? I've dabbled in the lives. We've done a little bit of lives. I try not to abuse it. I feel like it's too great of a power to abuse. So I appreciate you guys. You're the best. And we'll talk to you again super soon. Smoke indica. Do shit anyway.